Chapter 1. The Lion's Last Roar. The air in Tehran was thick with the scent of gasoline and burning tires. It was January 1979, and the streets pulsed with the rhythm of 1,000 voices chanting, "Death to the Shah." The Lion of Persia, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, had ruled for nearly 4 decades, but now his reign trembled on the edge of collapse. The palace walls, once impenetrable, seemed to shudder with every shouted demand. Inside the Nayavaran palace, the Shah sat alone in his study, the weight of his crown pressing not on his head but on his shoulders. His hands, once steady in command, now trembled as he traced the edges of a faded photograph of his father, Reza Shah the Great, whose iron grip had built this empire. The younger Pahlavi had inherited a throne, but not the loyalty that had once held it firm. The people had turned and knocked at the door. His wife, Empress Farah, entered, her face drawn with exhaustion. "They are calling for your resignation," she said softly, as if the words themselves might shatter the last remnants of his authority. The Shah exhaled, a sound like a deflating balloon. "They want a martyr," he murmured. "But I am no martyr. I am a king." Outside, the protests grew louder. The sound of breaking glass, the distant wail of sirens, the crackle of radio broadcasts calling for revolution. The Shah's spies had warned him this was no mere uprising. This was the end. In the halls of power, the betrayals had already begun. General Ovesi, once a loyal enforcer of the Shah's will, now whispered to his officers about the need for order. The secret police, the Savak, had been the Shah's eyes and ears. But even they could not silence the tide of dissent. The mullahs, led by the exiled Ayatollah Khomeini, had turned the people's anger into a weapon. The Shah's voice, when he spoke, was strained. "Tell them I will reform," he said to his advisers. "Tell them I will step aside temporarily." But the words rang hollow. The people no longer believed in promises. They wanted blood. The radio crackled with defiance. A voice, rough with emotion, broadcasted from an underground station. "The Shah must go. The people demand justice." The Shah's advisers exchanged glances. They had spent years silencing dissent, but now the dissent had a voice, and it was deafening. In the streets, young men and women, their faces alight with fury, carried banners bearing the image of Khomeini. The Shah's portrait, once hung with reverence, was torn down and trampled. The lion's roar had become a whisper. That night, the Shah stood at the window of his palace, watching the city burn. The fires of rebellion lit the sky, casting shadows that danced like ghosts of his past. He had been a modernizer, a Western ally, a man who had dreamed of turning Iran into a beacon of progress. But progress had a price, and the people had decided it was too high. His wife joined him, her hand brushing his arm. "What will you do?" she asked. The Shah turned away from the window. "I will do what I must," he said, though the words tasted like ash. "I will leave." The decision was made in secret. The Shah would flee, not as a conqueror, but as a fugitive. His jet, a symbol of his power, would carry him into exile, and not to the embrace of allies, but to the cold indifference of the world. As he boarded the plane, the weight of his crown finally lifted. But it was not relief he felt. It was the hollow echo of a throne left empty. The lion had roared his last, and the people at last were free. To be continued.